So I want to start this off by saying this is not a political channel. I didn't start Open Mod Productions to make it a political channel, but I am compelled to say this today because I'm tired of what I've been seeing in the media and from some of the people that I would consider friends, actually, um, specifically on the libertarian side of things too. This is this line of thinking is just outrageous. Freedom of speech does not extend to calls for violence. Let's just make that perfectly clear. You don't have to like somebody. You can vehemently disagree with them. You can call them whatever you want to call them. But when you say things like one down, a couple dozen more to go, when you say things like up next is Donald Trump, uh, we got to get these pieces of crap, when you stoked the flames for a decade calling people like me a Nazi, a transphobe, a homophobe, a fascist, when you called people like Charlie Kirk, who is more moderate than I am. And in fact, if you ask many people on the conservative right, they might actually tell you the truth that they thought maybe Charlie was a little too soft. And in fact, many of us have a sense of shame for ever feeling that because he was actually doing things the right way. He was reaching out, he was communicating. Uh, it's not the people on the right that are calling for violence. It was not the people on the right who were using those kind of terms. If not, what? When you think fascist and Nazi, what do you think? Because when I grew up listening to World War II veterans, fascism was something you fought with violence. Nazis were something you fought with violence. Communists were something you fought with violence. America is not a pro communist nation. Communism is not welcome in the United States of America. Fascism is not welcome in the United States of America. Nazis are not welcome in the United States of America because their very core beliefs are anti liberty. You do not have a place in this country. You are not welcome here. I don't want you here. My fellow Americans do not want you here. This is a Christian country. We are one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all, and those that would oppose liberty are not welcome to the party. If you want to endorse and condone violent acts against people speaking publicly, you are an enemy of the United States of America. Period. You can't have it both ways. If you want to have freedom of speech, fine. But you do not get to exercise that freedom of speech to commit violence against your fellow Americans. Those are not compatible positions. When you cross that line and you start calling for and encouraging direct harm against people you don't like, you are no longer an American. You do not exercise American thinking. America, the country as we know it, was founded in pubs, in bars, where people were having heated political debates over what the future of this country is going to be before it was founded. Debate is at the heart and soul of what this country is about. And when you threaten that with bullets, it's not the guns. And I can tell you for a fact it's not the guns because I live in one of the reddest states in the union. Everybody carries. There's cowboy carries. Kids learn how to shoot at high schools. There are guns in nearly every car. And you know what I never hear? I never hear gunshots. I never hear police sirens. There's no murder. Meanwhile, I lived in one of the bluest states in the union just a few years ago, and it was pretty much every single night I was hearing gunshots and police sirens. It's very clearly not the guns, it is the cultural political discourse that goes so far as to devalue human life. And one last thing, Charlie Kirk was not a homophobe, he was not a bigot, he was not a transphobe, he was not a racist. He was a Christian conservative who espoused traditional Christian values, traditional American values, and he taught the young to think critically. That's all he did, and he was shot for it. It is not the American right that is killing people. Over the last 18 months, every single major incident involving shooting at innocent people has involved somebody who was associated with Antifa, who had voted in support of a Democrat, who had donated to Act Blue, who had anti fascist rhetoric on their social media. This isn't open for debate. These are the facts. Every single one of them. This is not acceptable. I call on my associates in the Democrat Party, the moderate left, as we are now calling you. Many of your brothers and sisters have joined with Donald Trump in the Trump administration. Tulsi Gabbard is not a Republican. She's a Democrat. Her philosophies are Democrat. RFK Jr. is not a Republican. He's a Democrat. Donald Trump was, just a few decades ago, a Democrat. These are not far right fascists. These are moderate Democrats who stepped away from the Democrat Party because it was losing its mind. I call on people like Bill Maher to get your head out of your ass. You always take two steps forward and one step back with reasonable discourse. No, when you were talking with Ben Shapiro on your show, we already fully knew the political ideology of the shooter of Charlie Kirk. Anti fascist, Antifa. It was everywhere. Stop lying about these killing sprees. Stop lying about the rhetoric of your party in the mainstream. This is not isolated to Reddit and Twitter and Blue Sky. This is all over the mainstream media. I have listened to it for decades, hearing people call people who think like me fascist, bigoted, homophobic, transphobic, Nazi, and it gets to a point where it's like, you know what? Fine. Yeah, that's what I am, because there's no reasonable discourse. We can't have a discussion about the details and the nuance of any particular issue because that card always gets thrown down on the table. And yet it is this side that is incurring casualties. It is this side that is being shot at, not your side. Not your side, Bill Maher. You don't have to worry going to a public event that you're going to be shot. My channel is supposed to be a multimedia channel. It is a channel where I post my goofy little animations, my story ideas, my game content, and whatever random blogs that I feel like posting. It was never to be a political platform, though in the past I did campaign on it during presidential campaigns, back all the way to 2008, in fact. But I don't want this channel to become a political channel, but the problem is I can't focus on what I'm trying to do because I'm just thinking about the fact that my country is tearing itself apart. It's tearing itself apart. And there are people who are in denial about the culprits. It's not just some crazies. They're not just a random sampling of lunatics. There are specific markers that are attached to every single one of these violent shootings, every single one of these violent outbreaks. BLM was funded by Marxist think tank groups. $2.2 billion in damage done to this country, and hundreds of innocent black people injured or killed. That didn't happen during the Tea Party rally. That didn't happen during the Trump campaign. Even January 6th, which they try to liken to Pearl Harbor or 9/11, one person died, and that was one of the protesters who was shot by a DC police officer. They tried to spin that other people got killed or injured that day. Nobody else got killed or injured that day. Unrelated deaths occurred days later. A police officer had a heart attack days later, unrelated to the riot. Nobody else got hurt that day. You would think that the Capitol had been burned down the way the left talks about January 6th. And by the way, all of you screaming about free speech, where were you when those people were being held for 4 years without trial, without charge, many of them beaten and brutalized in prisons, many of them doing nothing more than showing up in DC on January 6th. One man was held for saying the phrase 1776, one of the most American dates in this country's history. That was all that person did. They did not pick up a brick. They did not attack a police officer. They did nothing violent. 1776. And that's acceptable. That's acceptable to the left, but it's not acceptable to call places of employment and let employees know, hey, one of your employees is on social media cheering a man's death, and not just cheering a man's death, but encouraging that the extreme violence continue, that assassinations continue. See, I'm done calling these people the far left. They're not the far left. They are evil. This is clearly the work of communism because these are the tools that communists employ. They employ character assassination and then they employ actual assassination. They try to devalue your words, and when that does not work, they start to devalue your life and then they take your life. And we already know who Saul Alinsky is. We already know who Bill Ayers is. We already know who George Soros is. These people are not unknown to anyone who pays attention to the greater political landscape. This is the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen, and it's time for the American people to finally wake up. And that means we're not going to exercise violence in the streets. We're not going to riot like they do, but we are going to cut their funding. We are going to ostracize them from the public square. We are not going to validate their radical opinions with debate. I call on the modern, moderate Democrats, those of you who can have reasonable discourse, to find your testicular fortitude to stand up, to denounce these people on your side of the aisle, kick them out, and talk to the rest of us. We have to work together to make this country better. You may indeed have legitimate grievances with the Trump administration and the political right, but if you do not denounce those people, if you do not kick them out, if you do not get rid of them, if you do not stop openly lying about where the violence is coming from, this country is doomed to violence. It's just that simple. I don't want it. I don't want to see it. Seeing Charlie Kirk get his neck blown out, it still haunts me because that was a good man. That was a good man. He was trying to talk to people, and he didn't deserve that. And none of us deserve to see it. And the only silver lining to his death is that it has woken up millions of people around the world. It just made the conservative side stronger. It didn't weaken us. And we're going to show you in the midterms when we trounce you even harder at the polls. And for those of you who would say it's silly to pick sides, no, you're intellectually deficient, to put it charitably. There is a right and there is a wrong. There is a yes and there is a no answer to a lot of these issues. And the things that work are the things we should do, and the things that don't work are the things that we should cast away. And not everything that is old is bad, and not everything that is new is good. Sometimes tradition, most times tradition, is better. It's tried and true, and it works, and it makes stable homes and stable families and stable human beings that can intellectually discourse with one another without trying to kill each other like savages. I've seen enough blood over the last couple of weeks. I don't want to see any more. But I also don't want this country to carry on in this weakened, divided state any longer. Stop hating Donald Trump for no reason. Stop hating the political right for no reason. Stop calling us Nazis, fascists, phobes, whatever term you want to use. Stop saying things like language is violence, because language is not violence. Violence is violence. Calling for violence is the precursor to violence. But language itself, discussion, is what we use instead of violence. Like I said for the third time, I do not want my channel to become a political channel. But this isn't about politics. This is about the soul of my country and my own soul and the souls of my brothers and sisters across this country. I can't stand it. I can't stand it. I keep waking up and having nightmares. It's not just Charlie Kirk. It's it's all of it. It's the hatred that has been revealed in his death. The insanity, the craziness in the eyes of these people, and they don't understand. They don't even know what Charlie Kirk stood for. They don't even understand what his message was at all. Charlie Kirk is a man who used to sit with Dave Rubin and his husband and have dinner. That's your homophobe. I can tell you for a fact that the real homophobes wouldn't dare sit and have dinner with a gay man. This is a man who has debated anyone and everyone that he could on both sides. And every time he shakes their hand and he says, "Thank you." That's how political discourse in the United States of America, left and right, should be conducted. And it hasn't been for a very long time. In fact, I can recall as a teenager being called a Nazi and a fascist. This was under George Bush because I said, we should be deporting illegal aliens and securing our border. That was 2006. They were calling a teenager a fascist and a Nazi. I didn't even read Nazi literature. I'd never read Mein Kampf. I had no leanings to fascism or Nazism of any kind. And I have since read Mein Kampf and other Nazi literature, and I'm even further afield of them. I have no love for Nazis or fascists or communists. It's not the Nazis that are the problem right now, because in this country, the Nazis are a fringe, tiny little group. It's the communists that are the problem right now. It is the communists fanning the flames of violence and political disharmony, because there was a time in this country where a Democrat and a Republican could debate, and they could debate with passion and fervor, and they could debate based on the value of their belief. And at the end of it, they could shake each other's hands and say, "God bless you," because the core cultural fabric was still shared between the two sides. I don't know the last time I actually saw that. I know the last time I saw unity in this country was when I saw President Trump elected. But in terms of the debate across the aisle, I haven't seen that in a long time. And my theory has always been this really started when Al Gore lost. When Al Gore lost, it became the mission of certain figures on the left to fan the flames and make it ever more extreme. And it has gotten ever more extreme with every single cycle of the political arena debate. Every midterm, every presidential election, it's gotten worse and worse and worse. It's 4:30 in the morning here as I'm recording this, and I couldn't sleep anymore. I kept having nightmares about Charlie Kirk's death, and I kept waking up just lost in thought. Now, there's a community on here who is not politically affiliated in any way, and in fact, I probably will offend some of you with my political opinion, but I don't care, because what I'm saying is right. And if you're actually hearing what I'm saying, you know I'm right. The truth is the truth, whether you like it or not. And that's the problem. That's what the real problem was with Charlie Kirk's message. It wasn't that he was right wing, it was that he was right. He was telling the truth, he was speaking facts, and it incensed people who thrived in the realms of indoctrination. The college campuses are full of indoctrination. Yes, there are teachers that need to be fired. They need to be investigated. If they have connections to communism, they need to be fired. McCarthy was right. And if you don't actually understand that Joe McCarthy was absolutely right when he went after communists, you don't actually know the full history of Joe McCarthy because he was right. And there were books published decades later that verified he was absolutely right. We have the evidence in hand. There were communists. There are communists in our government. People like Ilan Omar, who goes to Somalia and says she puts the interests of Somalis first, that is not an American representative. That is a representative of Somalia in our government, which, as far as I'm concerned, makes her a foreign invader. And anyone like that needs to be removed from office effective immediately as an enemy agent of the United States. She is not operating in the best interest of this country. She has admitted that she is not operating in the best interest of this country. People like this new mayor in New York, who is an open communist. Communism is not compatible with the United States of America, just as Sharia law is not compatible with the United States of America. These are not things that we do here. That's all I have to say for now. And if you don't like it, you are free to leave. I will not keep you here, but I will say this is not something that is going to become a regular occurring thing on my channel. This just needed to be said as one American citizen who's tired of the hatred, who's tired of hearing the doublespeak from the political left that we need to turn down the heat, but at the same time, they won't stop calling moderate conservatives fascist, Nazi, phobic, racist, sexist. These political buzzwords that are designed to just nullify your argument before you even say it. And the left knows that's what it does. That's what it does. That's what it's designed to do. Because why would you listen to a Nazi? Why would you listen to a fascist? Why would you listen to a transphobe or a homophobe or sexist? It doesn't matter whether they actually are or not. Why would you listen to them? That's the problem. And when you tell people over and over and over again, Charlie Kirk is a Nazi, he's a white supremacist, he's a racist, he's a bigot, he is this, that, and the other, and you keep telling people that, and you keep telling people that, and you keep saying words are violence, words are violence. You keep telling college kids words are violence, words are violence. Your feelings are more important than the facts. That is how you get a psychopath on a rooftop with a 30-06 pointed at a man with a sign over his head that says, "Change my mind." This is not America.